Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, forgive me, two questions for you, and then I'll turn to the Secretary General. Today, the British Prime Minister announced that the UK would provide fighter jet training, Western fighter jet training, to Ukrainian pilots and would examine the possibility of providing Western jets to Ukraine. Why does the U.S. continue to oppose a step that the British government now believes would be helpful to Ukraine long term? And on the balloon, you've described now the network of aerial surveillance conducted by China in 5 continents. Do you believe that that network is run by the PLA Air Force, and do you believe Xi Jinping himself was aware of the balloon last week? And Mr. Secretary General, U.S. officials have described that Chinese surveillance balloons have flown over at least one European country. Is that something that NATO is aware of, and are you concerned about? Thank you.
Thanks very much. So, first of all, with regard to the balloon, we will have more to say about that in the days ahead. We are getting more information almost by the hour as we continue to work to salvage the balloon. We're learning from that, and as well, we're learning from what we saw and picked up as the balloon traversed the United States. As to who's responsible for that, China is, and it doesn't matter on one level which individuals may or may not have been responsible. The fact is, China engaged in this irresponsible action, a violation of our sovereignty and territorial integrity and international law. And as we've noted as well, we're not alone in this. Countries across 5 continents have also had surveillance balloons overfly their territory, which is why we're sharing this information with others. We continue to look to China to act responsibly and as well to help us in managing this relationship responsibly. That's what we continue to look for. And I'm sorry, the first part of your question? Oh, the fighter jets. As we've said throughout this process, at every single turn, we will, working very closely with the Ukrainians, as well as working with other partners and allies, work to make sure that Ukraine has what it needs, when it needs it, to effectively defend itself and to continue to take back the territory that's been seized from it by Russian forces. As the nature of the conflict, the aggression has evolved, so too is the support that we provided. And what we did initially, in fact, before the Russian aggression itself, as we saw it coming and wanted to make sure that Ukraine had in its hands what it would need to defend itself, we did these very significant drawdowns a year, more than a year and a half ago, back in September, before the aggression, Christmas before the aggression, and as a result, they had things like Stingers and Javelins on hand when Russia went at Kyiv, and they were able to repel the attack and push it back. At every step along the way, as needs have evolved, so too is what we have provided Ukraine, and that most recently took place with the decision to provide the Abrams tanks, and of course Germany providing the Leopard tanks and other Europeans doing the same. We've also been very clear all along that what's vital is not just a particular weapon system, a piece of equipment. Equally important is the ability of Ukrainians to use it effectively, and that requires, in some cases, significant training. Equally important is the ability to maintain it. And then finally, all of that has to be brought together in in a coherent strategy. All of those elements are important. It's a long way of saying this is an evolving process, and we will continue to make judgments about what we think Ukraine needs and what it can be most effective in using. We'll do that in very close consultation with the Ukrainians and, of course, in consultation with our partners.
The Chinese balloon over the United States confirms a pattern of Chinese behavior, where we see that China over the last years has invested heavily in new military capabilities, including different types of surveillance and intelligence platforms. And we have also seen increased Chinese intelligence activities in Europe, again, different platforms. They use satellites, they use cyber, and as we've seen over the United States, also balloons. So we just have to be vigilant. We need to be aware of the constant risk of Chinese intelligence, and then step up what we do to protect ourselves. And we need also to react in a prudent, responsible and vigilant way, as we have seen the United States has reacted to this specific balloon over North America, the United States. I think it also highlights that security is not regional. Security is global. What happens in Asia matters for Europe, and what happens in Europe matters for Asia, and also, of course, for North America. This was a message that was very much confirmed during my visit to Japan and South Korea, East Asia last week, where those close partners of NATO very much highlighted the importance of strengthening the cooperation between NATO and our partners in the Indo-Pacific to address the challenges that China poses to our security, to our values, and to our interests. And I think that is the balloon over North America just confirms that pattern.